Congratulations to Pitt for a game well played and a victory, and they certainly earned it and deserved it. I think our team played certainly as they were prepared. In some manner, I wasn't able to get through to our team and prepare them deeply enough for this game. We never did find rhythm offensively from beginning to end. Turnovers, the number of penalties, and the penalties meaning concentration-ish penalties, rather than ones that I think were forced. A couple of big plays defensively that we gave up. We knew that was going to be a critical part to the game, and so not making a few critical tackles. But in general, I don't think staff led by me prepared this team, our team, to execute well enough at a high enough level to deserve the win. And so I think atypical, the number of miscues, and consistently from beginning to end really was the story of the game. Even though we were leading at halftime, we never really were able to mount a serious or put enough pressure on Pitt's defense, and then when we needed to get off the field defensively, again in a game that was kind of run against run and clock oriented and low scoring, critical plays matter, and we didn't make enough of them. So I think that's really the bottom line. A number of injuries. Mandy Alonzo, Juan Thornhill, Joey Blunt. That's a lot of production that went off the field for us defensively. And then it looks like Brent Nelson as well.
Did you think that Pitt would be able to control both lines of scrimmage or the way that it did?
It was the first thing that I mentioned to our team when we got ready to play Pitt. The first thing I mentioned was the physical nature of the game and what that would be like, and knowing that would be, I think, the determining factor of whether we had a chance to win. And ultimately, with a couple of the runs that kind of squirted out and went in the distance, you'd have to say they ended up winning the line of scrimmage. Certainly, on the offensive side and on the defensive side, the amount of pressure they could get on our quarterback, as well as playing the run with the lack of production there, I would say that would be the same on the other side.
Not to make too much of one call, but the horse collar, I guess it was, person fouling out. What did you see? What was the explanation?
Oh, I argued against it. That's really all I can say.
In terms of Darren Hall, their back that had the big game, Olison was one of the guys we'd heard about. They had the freshman a week ago. Was he a surprise, and did he do anything different, or whoever they plugged in was going to have that?
No, not necessarily. It was really just lack of execution and fit, and being a gap off. It matters against a good running team. And so then when a couple combinations of different players, so when Mandy came out, Jordan Mack returning, a different substitute, and then a few different safeties behind him, it doesn't take much before the lack of coordination shows up and hurts. And so Pitt executed when they needed to. We weren't able to execute under the circumstances when we had to and didn't.
What did you see on the play where Alameda, it was right in front of your bench, took off down the sideline as they ruled him down?
Yeah, the explanation I got is that his rear end hit the ground, and that's what they told me.
Did you see that?
I didn't see it. I had the same view as everyone else, so I couldn't see it in real time. I looked up at the scoreboard, and that's, I think that's the same view they had.
Bronco, of the 80 penalty yards, I think 55 came in the first quarter. I'm just curious if the conditions had anything to do with it, or was it just breakdowns in concentration, like you said?
I would have to guess both. The excitement to play the game, maybe the rain, or hard to say, but it's atypical to have that many in that stretch and that time. It seemed like they were kind of spaced throughout the game, though, and it never really went away, or we became poised or composed and executed at the level that I expect and would hopefully coach to. But yeah, it seemed at the beginning there were more. So again, my job and my staff's job is to anticipate circumstances, and anticipate really every possible scenario and then prepare our players to effectively be able to manage them. And the players play as they're prepared. And so that's somehow, some way we didn't get through to them enough.
There was a lot of talk during the week about being prone to violence on defense. There was the little jawing before the game after pregame warmups. Gene mentioned the penalties. Is there a chance that maybe you guys went a little overboard with that? Kind of got too far into your heads and too much into the game?
I don't think so. And I didn't really see any manifestation of that. I just saw execution flaws, consistent execution flaws, which usually comes from preparation. And so, yeah, that's what I saw.
Understanding that it's hard to criticize Bryce because he can make so many big plays, but of those 5 sacks, it looked like 3 of them maybe could have just got rid of the ball.
Yeah.
How do you strike a balance with him between he can rip off a big one any time, but don't take those big losses?
Yeah, every play and every game is a learning experience for Bryce. And as this season continues to move forward and we become more and more successful, right, that continues to create new circumstances. And as he learns to manage those, right, every play is a learnable experience, and every game is. And so this one, yeah, there's plenty to learn. And I'm sure there'll be plenty of times where the ball could have been delivered or thrown away before the sacks, and especially when you put it in the context of how the situation or where that point in the game was and the impact it might have. And so, again, our job as a staff is to give him the dialogue and the information between series to educate him in the event that there's pressure and prepare him to where that's on his mind when and if it happens. So, again, communication from staff to players and then application of the information from the players on the field, that reflects just the collective preparation during the week. And so, and then the context of the game. So it's not only the quarterback, but I would say Bryce was just reflective of probably the entire team.
Is it doubly hard, though, because he can't slip it down?
Sure. Yeah, and that's been one of the things that has allowed us to move the chains, and when he's doing things and creating kind of outside of the system. And so what we learned today is that alone won't be enough, and you have to be able to execute just core offense and defense as the baseline, and then the improvisation that can be added afterwards, not as the primary.
Did you come into the game thinking Jana might have a bigger role in the offense, or were those plays where just Bryce saw him open and went to him?
I think it was more the second. Just Bryce saw him open and went to him, and I'm glad he was trustworthy and did what he was supposed to do. The number of times on the headset on either side of just execution of assignment, we were not consistent really in any regard, especially in the second half.
Coach, if a season is 12 learning opportunities, what did the coaches learn from tonight, and what do you think the players learned, and what do you want them to learn from tonight?
Just that we have a lot more control of the outcome than maybe what we're claiming. And again, that goes from not only coaches to players. It's the entire organization. And so it certainly means that you have to be able to execute your core schemes regardless of circumstance, and they have to be effective enough from beginning of the game to the end of the game. And certainly if you want to be a contender for a conference championship, that has to happen. And so that to me it's probably one of the most vital lessons that we needed to learn and have learned. It's exposed our weaknesses, and that's when you play outside of the system in critical moments. It hurts the collective, and so it's hard without, and then now watching the rest of the film. But we didn't play clean enough nor execute effectively enough, nor in a complementary way to really to take over the game. There was one instance of complementary football when we gave up a score, but then blocked the extra point, and that kept it within at one point 20-13, and so that was one of the few instances where it looked like one side then was complemented by another side that then helped us manage the game.
I'll go Brad and then wrap it up with Chris.
Coach, your ace in the hole lately has been your run defense. You mentioned earlier in the season you could see the run fits when they were bad. What could you see tonight, and how can you fix that with Georgia Tech obviously coming up soon?
Yeah, same, and those, it's a completely different style. So what we saw tonight was a different running game, completely different style than we've been defending. And so what you saw before the injuries and before really through most of, I would say, the first half, it was fairly consistent other than the one that squirted out at the beginning. But the pieces became harder to coordinate and fit players collectively together as it went on. But their system was different. The first we'd seen that system this year, but we had studied it from a year ago. But the two big run plays, the two plays, I think was the story there. Georgia Tech's run game is completely different, as well as Virginia Tech and Liberty. So the plan and the execution didn't hold well enough to win the game. It held just enough to keep us close, but not enough to win.
Coach, you mentioned preparation multiple times. Preparation's a during the week thing. Were there signs all week, or were you surprised by today?
No, there weren't any signs. I thought we had a really solid model for a Friday night game. I thought we were on point from everything that I saw, and so certainly learning opportunity for me to examine and see if I can retrace and see where it might have happened. The volume of miscues, mostly concentration-wise, that's the thing that's kind of frustrating me most, besides the execution that came after that. So, yeah, a lot to analyze and then kind of to digest.
We have offensive tech.